78 episodes of this. 78. You know, we'll talk about a cliche. The title, The House of Cards. Not going to be, one of these pessimistic baloney type episodes. Maybe a little realistic, I guess, is the right way to do it. I come on here. We did the return of the Come Up with Cage. Some people liked it. Some people really liked it. Some people, I think, skipped it, which, your prerogative. You guys just do, you do what you like with your time, right? I mean, you can only consume so much content. I'm trying to be mindful of all that, not be too negative because you're coming here for the escape. But, I'd be remiss if I didn't have, some, just drop what I'm thinking, where my brain is. I'm going to tell you where my brain is in the hobby. I think if you view the hobby as an escape, if you view the hobby as, a hobby, as something for you to turn to spend your time doing that you enjoy, I think this is a great place. I think it's a great place to spend your money. And people derive enjoyment in different ways. And what I'm learning from my DMs that start off nasty and usually end up with different tones, some people enjoy buying a card of a young quarterback and basically placing that bet and having the rush of, I picked my guy, I put my bet down on the table, I picked red or black, I picked, first 12 or third 12, I picked 0-0 if you really want to go with a risky one. And watching the games and seeing if the guy you picked works out. If that's your thought process going into it and that's what you enjoy doing, great. That's where you want to spend your money, great. This is a fun hobby for that, right? It is a way of, being able to buy something tangible of someone you're a fan of and put your chips down and place your bet. We've talked about how it doesn't always work out that way, and sometimes you can pick the right player, but the card itself that you're buying may go down in value anyway, for reasons outside your control. It does happen. So, but as long as you're aware of that and you go into it with open eyes, then great. Likewise, if you are into breaking and breaking is your thing, whether you want to, just break product open whenever it comes out or, break because you want to get your team or break because you want to get your player and, and you go in with the eyes open of, I'm going to spend my money on this and, there's a high likelihood that I'm probably not going to get back what I spent, et cetera, et cetera. Great. That you're deriving entertainment from it. Spectacular. There are some people who go see a lot of bad movies. They pay for it. They walk out saying that was a crappy movie and it wasn't worth my money. Happens all the time. And if your take on it also is the flip game, and that's what you like to do, and you get a rush from, buying Fields cards and then, selling them and timing the market right, I'm not going to tell you can't do that either. There's no, I'm no watchdog or gatekeeper or anything like that. Go ahead and enjoy it. Where my brain is today is, no matter how you enjoy the hobby, I'm going to steal, phraseology here from, our friends in the gambling space. As you arrive in Vegas, maybe because you're going out there for the Beckett grading conference, I won't be there because there's a show in Hofstra and it's my birthday that weekend. And, I'd love to go to Vegas. I want to go to the Hofstra show. I mean, that's a fun show. It's in my backyard. So, but to steal kind of a saying from them, when you see it up on the signs in Vegas, you see it in Atlantic City, you see it on the highway, bet with your head not over it, right? Now more than ever, I think that's a very important thing for us to get out there. And whether it's breaking or prospecting or your overall collection or however you do it, bet with your head not over it, I think is an important refrain to kind of repeat. It's exactly where my mind is because, there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. Rates being what they are, bank lending being what it is, inflation being what it is, the macroeconomic picture being what it is, markets being what they are, in the United States, an election year and the uncertainty that brings with it coming up next year as well. It's going to be interesting. And, if you follow the Fed, the Fed just, basically signaled that, inflation, while decreasing, is not decreasing to a number that they want it to be at. And as a result, they're not expecting the myriad of rate drops as quickly in 2024, or as many in 2024 as people were kind of hoping for. That has an impact. It has an impact on banks' ability to lend money out. It has an impact on liquidity. It has an impact on businesses, that need that liquidity. What it got me thinking was that maybe if you have the opportunity with your disposable income to dedicate a little bit to sort of a rainy day fund and your cards. I mean, it doesn't have to be or, you don't have to take it all out, right? I mean, I'm not telling anybody here, don't buy your cards, but just, for me, and I'm doing this myself, I'm able to enjoy the hobby. I'm able to enjoy spending my money in the hobby a little bit better because of peace of mind. I wouldn't have that peace of mind if I wasn't saying, okay, this week I have $200 of disposable income. Maybe in prior weeks, or maybe during COVID, maybe during the bubble time when I really was just home doing nothing, I put that whole 200 towards buying a box or a break or cards. Maybe now, maybe I take 50 of it and put it aside, or maybe I split 100 and just put it in a, in a bank somewhere. I'm not saying you're going to use it. I'm not saying you're going to need to use it. I'm not saying that there's any kind of crisis looming or anything like that. But if liquidity is not there, maybe what winds up happening is you have that little slush fund, that little extra money you've saved up for when a card comes available that you didn't think you'd be able to get, and you have the liquidity for it. So anyway, it's just where my brain is today. Like I said, I don't want to be too somber on it, but I do like sharing with you guys, what I'm thinking. You guys know I've been selling stuff off, for almost the entire year here. Consolidating a collection, keeping some pieces, several of them I've owned for, decades now. Still buying. You guys know about my wilt that I bought recently, refocusing on sort of cards like that, cards that I've always wanted to own, but I don't have to have a PSA 9 or a 10. Vintage stuff that, in lower grade is just as nice if you get, eye appeal kind. That's kind of where my brain is, is presently as far as, where the hobby goes. I'll give a shout out to a couple companies, and I love the innovation of it, right? I mean, who knows what's going to happen with, Panini Fanatics, all those fun things. But I love seeing, companies do things different, and then companies kind of build on it, right? The two that come to mind, and then, you're going to see this kind of stuff happen out there is the Fund Your Cards, your the Shyway Vlogs, my friend, who was on here and talked about Fund Your Cards. And think about that, right? It's, if you had that $200 this week, maybe you take that whole $200 cash and keep it, but you still want to buy cards. All right, well, utilize your collection, right? You can use your cards to kind of fund your next purchase. You're now consolidating your collection. You're now, trading the pieces you have into a PC item, a larger grail, something like that. And what's funny about it is if you check out a recent post by the Wharf sports cards, and guys, I'm not paid by either of these guys. It's just, I try to be on, hobby social media a lot, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, because I want to make my weekly news segment, entertaining, but also kind of keep you guys up on, what's going on in the hobby. And when I do that and I'm checking out the news stories and seeing what people are doing, I do see what, some businesses are doing, what some folks are doing. And, a lot of great content from the Philly show this past weekend. I'll get back to your Fund Your Cards and the Wharf in a second, but, tangent, it's what I do, right? The Philly show had some really great stuff going on, not just Michael Rubin there and, walking around with Joe, the guy who runs the show, but, it looked like there was more accessibility to the athletes. If you look at kind of like the, your stuff that came out, it looked like a great, the content of it looked like a great cross section of vintage cards and modern cards and autographs. It looked like there was something there for everybody. a lot of smiles, even in the background, right? And sure, Michael Rubin was walking around at the tables, making content and doing all that stuff. I'm less concerned about that and more concerned about how, the show was well attended, and Joe and the people who run that show are updating it. They're crafting, new experiences for people so that they can get closer to the athletes and have more fun at the show. That was fun to see, right? I'll get into your cards and the Wharf. The Wharf. I should bring the Wharf on. Somebody send this to him. Somebody send it to Nick. We've had him before a long time ago. And, I think he was at PWCC for a while, and now he seems to be doing his own thing. And I want to maybe bring him on and talk about what he's doing. But he started sort of like a private card network, right? Where, he was, you can, I guess, tell him what kind of cards you have and tell him what kind of cards you're looking for. And also does a monthly eBay auction, like a curated auction. I think he only sells like 5 cards at a time for this curated kind of, his own, the Wharf Elite type auction. He doesn't call it that, obviously, but, I use that, that phrase, right? Premier, elite, to signify what he's doing, right? And he's able to curate these 5 cards and really give a story about him. I can tell you firsthand, I have been swept up by the storytelling and narrating of the Wharf, and bought cards for way more than I should have based on stories by him. And, this hasn't come up for this long and blah, blah. And, you get kind of like, oh, he makes a good point. I should bid again. So he does a very good job. I wouldn't hesitate selling on them. But here's why I bring it up. In addition to all that fun, the Fund Your Cards model, which, Mr. Wave Vlogs came on here and talked about, it is based on this 10% fee, right? Where you're able to basically buy your grail. They charge you 10% more, and then you can give them cards until you have sold enough to pay off your grail and their 10%. Again, read the post, get the whole deal itself. It looks like the Wharf, in addition to this curated auction that he's doing and, this private client network that he's doing, it looks like he's doing the same type of model, sort of like a consolidate to grail. I saw a post. It was a well-done post. I'm going to have to find out how he edited it. And it's like, we had a customer trade all of these cards. It's like, it's like this Griffey, this Bonds, like run, and traded into this. And I think it was a PMG of Griffey. And, the post talks about how that's one of the things they offer with the Wharf, that, you can buy a card with them and then use your cards that you sell with them until you pay for the card. Now, auction houses do this. What was missing from the Wharf's, post about it was that 10% fee that Fund Your Cards charges. And if the Wharf's doing it for nothing, that's an interesting thing. I think what you'd have to try to figure out there is what kind of fees are being charged on the cards that you're selling to get the grail, and how does that compare? Is he just sending them off to an auction house where the auction house is going to take 20%? So you're losing, right? You'd rather be, paying 10% on these guys if they're negotiating, Fund Your Cards. So it's a fun little thing, right? It's hey, we did it. We're having some success. All right, we're going to do it, and we're going to now undercut. We're now going to give you a better price. We're going to do the same thing. And I can understand how the Wharf would be able to do that, because the Wharf is actually selling the cards for you and taking a fee on the consignment of those cards. Whereas Fund Your Cards, they're taking their fee up front and they're sending those cards off, and the fee is being taken by sort of like the auction house. The Wharf selling them on eBay, the hope would be that the Wharf has a nice, deal with eBay and is getting a lower, percentage, and you're able to, really reap the benefit of no upfront fee and then a lower fee. But again, this is kind of like, I'm going to have a Wharf on. I'll make sure I reach out to him. I should have done that beforehand. Because I only bring these guys up, bring these companies up, because I started this off talking about big picture, right? The goal here is to stay in the hobby. The goal here is to have fun. The goal here is to collect. It is to, do the hobby your own way, to find a way to your cards that you want to buy, right? And these two companies are helping people do that in a way that allows you to not have to really dip into your pocket. And that to me was something worth noting, right? Because, if you have a job and you're working and you're getting these paychecks, there's disposable income for you and you can spend that on cards. Or you can take that disposable income, put that into that rainy day fund that we talked about in the beginning, but you still have a card that comes up. Here are these companies, Mr. Wave Logs and Funnier Cards. I'm going to just keep calling them that. And the Wharf, they are offering up ways for you to take cards you have that maybe you don't want anymore. Maybe you can consolidate into a card that you do want without you having to go into your pocket for extra cash. Now, I'm quite certain that you could do the same kind of thing with auction houses. It depends on the kind of card, depends on the size of the card, you name it. I have cards at auction houses now that are, going to sell towards the end of the year, sell in October, sell in November, and there are auctions ending this week that I will bid on cards. And I will then say, all right, I'm not paying for that card because you already have a card of mine that we're going to offset it. We're going to, it's like an advance or however you want to, phrase it. I've done that many times before. So it's not exactly a new thing. Looks like these guys are kind of bringing it down a level where, it's not, oh, we're going to do that. We'll give you an advance, but the card's got to be worth 10 grand or 5 grand. It looks like they'll take whatever it is. Which, it's new. It's an update of the hobby. And it's something that I think will probably come in very handy now where you're dealing with a situation where, you might not want to put your money out there. So it's kind of where my brain is. You can be like, what the hell? Screw this guy. I want to have fun in the hobby. Great. Spend your money. I could be dead wrong, and all of a sudden, inflation is 0 next month, and everything's great, and there's more money than you know what to do with. So what? You're not in any worse position. You know what I mean? You'll still have that money to spend. You still got your Grail. You still did all that fun stuff. We've come through a period here over the last couple of years that we really had never seen before, and the interest rate, the climate, the overall economic picture reminds me a lot of 2007. And, if you don't know what I'm talking about, kind of go look at what happened in the years after 2007 to the markets. And, it's better to kind of be ready for that. I'm not, Chicken Little, the sky is falling. The cool thing about, living through something like that is that the markets also live through it. And the Fed lived through it, and they are taking measures now to avoid the same type of thing happen that did previously, and you hope to avoid it. I just would hate for folks to be too over leveraged on cards. And if there's somebody out there who's listening to this, and maybe you take it to heart, and you take a look at your position. It's been a while since I came on here and talked about the card audit, right? And go through your stuff, make a pile of the stuff that you need to have, make a pile of the stuff that it's okay to sell. I did a lot of reading today, the markets, even some of the stuff that I'm telling you, stocks that I'm buying are down. Remember I talked about this early in the year, selling my cards and moving into stocks that I like. Even that, the cards would be down too, but the stocks are down. Several of the stocks that I bought are down. So, there's no right and wrong. I'm no soothsayer here. But in reading and researching, I read a quote. I'm going to butcher it, right? I'm going to butcher it. But Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out is when you get to see who's swimming naked. And it makes me think, I hope I got that quote right? It's, you get the point, right? You can kind of swim naked under cover of darkness, under cover of water, but when the water disappears and you're out there, the whole world sees that you don't have a bathing suit on. It's the same kind of thing with, buying on leverage, being overexposed to one type of thing. Even Nat Turner posted a comic today on Twitter that had me laughing, and it was, basically like, a husband and a wife look, they're wealthy, they look like they're at like a dining room table, and the wife has a newspaper that says Dow with a big arrow down, and the husband says, "Don't worry about it, we're long on sports cards." You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm sure, there are people out there who can make an argument that money in sports cards over the long haul is probably a better place to put your money, especially in inflationary time. It's a good, you name it. I'm perfectly fine with that. I guess what I'm saying is, don't have your eyes closed to what's going on in the world. And, you love the hobby, there are still ways to participate in the hobby, to have fun in the hobby, and to almost like, audit your collection, consolidate your stuff. I'm not getting $1 from Fun Your Cards or, the Wharf or any other auction house or anything like that. But it's just, those things caught my eye and they kind of jive with my, my tone and tenor of the day, which is kind of, the hobby doesn't operate in a bubble. There's a reason, I believe, for the, the craziness that happened, that perfect storm of we were all kind of stuck home and, the infusion of cash and, money that was kind of pumped in, everyone looking for nostalgia on top of that, you name it. And it just caused this, explosion of prices that we've now seen kind of, continue to trickle down. For most assets, not all, but for most assets in our space, for most cards. I'm not selling my 33 roots. I'm not selling, my vintage cards. I'm not selling, the stuff that I've owned for a long time, the stuff that I love, that I plan on holding forever. Right? I have, when you have a long-term enough horizon for it, a short-term dip is not going to, be something that you're fearful of. That said, there are other items in my collection that I probably will continue to sell, because I'm not saying the prices are going to go down. I'm not. I may regret selling some of these things, but I will tell you over the next couple of months, I will have peace of mind that will then allow me to enjoy the hobby better because I won't be over leveraged. I won't be so significantly, heavy in the hobby as far as, how much money I have in it. And I'll be able to, sell some stuff and utilize some of that money in the hobby and enjoy my time here. And I hope, you guys are able to do that as well. Different kind of episode, we brought on, a guest, to come up, trying to do a hobby business. I'll try to bring on the Wharf to talk about some of the things he's offering. It's just one of those eye-opening things, right? Because I want everybody listening to this to remain in the hobby, to have fun in the hobby. And, part of that is remaining fiscally solvent, right? Part of that is, the old saying, a bet with your head, not over it. And there's not a lot of people doing that. The hobby these days, and maybe you hated this episode, and I'll live with that. And maybe I'll lose subscribers. I lose followers no matter what kind of content that I wind up putting out there. Some people don't like what I do. Some people do like. But I feel like a message like this was necessary when every other piece of content out there is bang and boom and one of the greatest. Okay, that's fun. That's a show. It's great stuff. But sometimes you got to balance that show against the economic reality of the world, and make sure you fall somewhere in the middle. That's it. There's my my 25 minutes of fiscal reasonableness. We can all have fun in the hobby, but sprinkle a little bit of economics on top of it and make sure that you are betting with your head and not over it. Having fun in the hobby does not require you to spend every dollar that you have. And there are companies out there that will help you enjoy the hobby by consolidating some of the stuff that you already have rather than having to dip into your pocket for more. And there we go. See you guys in a couple of days.